Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatiruttama-shloke Bhaktir-bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya-manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna-prishtaya Bhutale श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 9, Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. So, Brahmaji is offering various wonderful prayers here. And these two prayers and the next one are also very special. Text 23, Brahmaji is praying here. And next prayer, please save me from false ego and philosophical or deviation from your plan. So, text 23. Evam prapannavarado esha prapannavarado ramayatma shaktya yad yad karishyati grihita gunavatarah tasmin svavikramamidam srujatopi cheto yunjit karma shamalam cha tatha vijayam. Translation.
The Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, is always the benefactor of the surrendered souls. His activities are always enacted through his internal potency Rama, or the goddess of fortune. I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of the material world, and I pray that I not be materially affected by my works, for thus I may be able to give up the false prestige of being the creator. Purport. In the matter of material creation, maintenance, and destruction, there are three incarnations of the material modes of nature: Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. But the Lord's incarnation as Vishnu is in his internal potency is the supreme energy for the total activities. Brahma, who is only an assistant in the modes of creation, wanted to remain in his actual position as an instrument of the Lord instead of becoming puffed up by the false prestige of thinking himself the creator. That is the way of becoming dear to the Supreme Lord and receiving his benediction. Foolish men want to take credit for all the creations made by them, but intelligent persons know very well that not a blade of grass can move without the will of the Lord. Thus, all the credit for wonderful creations must go to him. By spiritual consciousness only can one be free from the contamination of material affection and receive the benediction offered by the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Very beautiful prayer by Brahmaji. So Brahmaji prays, "Oh my dear Lord, who are you? You are the benefactor of the surrendered soul. and your activities are always conducted under Ramayatma Shaktya. So Rama, who is your Atma Shakti, the goddess of fortune. Please, I pray here only to be engaged in your service. And what is the service? The huge service, service of creation of the material world. I do not want to be materially affected by my own work because Brahma's work is of creation. There is a lot of Rajoguna being involved there. So I do not want to be affected by my own work, and I may be able to give up the false prestige of being the creator. Very, very beautiful, amazing prayer by Brahmaji. Where Brahmaji is praying for the protection from the false ego which may arise due to creation. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that in the matter of creation, there are these three Gunavataras, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And but by Lord's incarnation of Vishnu, in his internal potency is the supreme energy of the total activities. Brahmaji here is aware of this, and Brahmaji want to remain in the actual position of being instrument to the activities of the Supreme Lord. So the activities will go on with us or without us. Our fortune is that we are being engaged in this activity. Just like Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Nimitta matra bhava savya sachin. Arjuna, this battle is already over. And the Lord shows him the time ahead that how Bhishmam cha, Dronam cha, Jayadratham cha, they are in the Karal Damstra of the Kala. And he says, simply become the instrument in my hands and take the glory. And here Brahmaji says, let that glory also not affect me. Prabhupada writes here, foolish men want to take the credit for all the creation made by them, but actually things are carried out by the modes of material nature. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. The modes of material nature are acting on us, acting through us. And at times, only a bewildered soul thinks that he is the doer. Ahankara vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. And here, Brahmaji, is exactly want to be saved from this ahankar or false ego. Srila Prabhupada says, by spiritual consciousness only, one can be free from the contamination of the material affection and receive the benediction offered by the Lord. So, what is that spiritual consciousness? The spiritual consciousness is the mood of servant of the servant. So, one is in the mood of servant of the servant, and one simply realizing, I am just insignificant instrument in the hands of the Supreme Lord. Very beautifully exemplified by Haridas Thakur. On the verge of his departure, Lord Chaitanya says, my dear Haridas, if you leave, what will happen to this universe? And Haridas Thakur smiles and says, my dear Lord, please don't put me in such illusion. If an ant dies, what difference does it make to the universe? Right. So this is Brahmaji's mood. And Haridas Thakur is also no other than Lord Brahma's incarnation. Text 24. नाभिर्दादिह सतोऽप्यपि यस्य पुंसो विज्ञानशक्ति अहमासम् अनन्तशक्ते रूपं विचित्रमिदमस्य विवृणित्वतो मे मां रिरीशिष्ट निगमस्य गिरां विसर्गः. Translation.
Translation: the Lord's potencies are innumerable. As he lies down in the water of devastation, I am born as the total universal energy from the navel lake in which the lotus sprouts. I am now engaged in manifesting his diverse energies in the form of the cosmic manifestation. I therefore pray that in the course of my material activities, I may not be deviated from the vibration of the Vedic hymns. Purport: every person engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord in this material world is prone to so many material activities. And if one is not strong enough to protect himself against the onslaught of material affection, he may be diverted from the spiritual energy. In the material creation, Brahma has to create all kinds of living entities with bodies suitable to their material conditions. Brahma wants to be protected by the Lord because he has to contact many, many vicious living entities. An ordinary Brahmana may fall from the Brahma Tejas or the power of Brahmanical excellence due to his association with many fallen conditional souls. Brahma, as the supermost Brahmana, is afraid of such a fall down, and therefore he prays to the Lord for protection. This is a warning for one and all in the spiritual advancement of life. Unless one is sufficiently protected by the Lord, he may fall down from his spiritual position. Therefore, one has to pray constantly to the Lord for protection and the blessing to carry out one's duty. Lord Chaitanya also entrusted his missionary work to his devotees and assured them of his protection against the onslaught of material affection. The path of spiritual life is stated in the Vedas to be like the edge of a sharpened razor. A little inattentiveness may at once create havoc and bloodshed, but one who is completely surrendered soul, always seeking protection from the Lord in the discharge of his entrusted duties, has no fear of falling into material contamination. Hare Krishna.
Now Brahmaji prays, "My dear Lord, your potencies are innumerable, and I am born while you are laying in the water of devastation. I therefore pray that in the due course of the material activities, I may not be deviated from the Shabda Nigamasya Giram Visargaha, or the deviated from the vibration of the Vedic hymns." In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that every person engaged in the transcendental loving service to the Lord in this material world is prone to so many material activities, right? Because we are in the material world, we will be engaged in many material activities. And if one is not strong enough to protect himself against the onslaught of material affection, he may be diverted from the spiritual energy. It is very, very important to note here that whenever in the course of performing our activities, we should not be bound by our own activities. And at times, those are spiritual activities, right? That's why we see that there are so many rules and regulations. That's why there are so many do's and don'ts. So many yama niyama is there in place and following of the Vaishnava etiquette. Prabhupada says that ordinary person may fall from his Brahma Tejas or the power of the Brahminical excellence due to association of many, many fallen conditioned souls. Just like when we go for a preaching. So here what is important is when we are giving association, there is a difference between giving and receiving association. What is the difference? What is the meaning of who is giving whose association?
One
One
who
who
gets
is
impacted.
influencing another is called as he is giving the association. Just like we may go to some very rich person's house, or we may come across somebody who is extremely handsome or beautiful, and we may hand over Bhagavad Gita to them, and while handing over Bhagavad Gita, we may be affected by their uh, riches or beauty. Now, who is giving whose association to whom, right? Like Prabhupada, along with his many disciples, he was in Mahabaleshwar one day. They had gone to see the land in Mahabaleshwar from Pune. Prabhupada had come to Pune, and where the original deities of Radha Kunj Bihari, they are there. The one who had these deities previously. So they had come to their house, and from there, Prabhupada ji went to Mahabaleshwar. And Prabhupada went to Mahabaleshwar, and there was the 4 o'clock in the morning, and of course devotees were tired and they had taken very late dinner and kind of thing, and nobody had waken up for the Mangal Arati. And Prabhupada immediately said, "Oh, wake up, wake everybody up." And Prabhupada said that instead of giving our association to people, if we take their association, he was telling to his young disciples, then how will we advance in spiritual life? So receiving and taking association means who is impacting whom, right? It is very important. Later, when we'll read Chaitanya Charitamrita, there Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejecting or avoiding the association of Maharaj Pratap Rudra and Pratap Rudra's anguish that I want to meet Mahaprabhu. And there Prabhupada writes this very elaborately. So therefore, this is the warning to one and all in the spiritual advancement of life. Unless one is sufficiently protected by the Lord, one may fall down from his spiritual position. It's very important that many times some because we speak very big philosophy. It is like a child who has learned from his father. He's a 4-year-old child, and he has picked up few things from the father. Father is a PhD in quantum physics, and he goes and says, "Oh, theory of relativity, E is equal to mc square, Einstein." And the people, they are clapping. Oh my God, what this child knows! 4-year-old, and he's talking about theory of relativity, Einstein, E is equal to mc square, time is relative. We may be speaking big things because we are associating with the big people, right? Our spiritual masters, our the founder acharya, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. This is what we are associating, and the respect that we get is for the content that we speak, of which we may not have any realization, right? We may be speaking like a parrot without sufficient realization, but the respect is awesome, and that therefore one should be aware of this. Prabhupada says the path of spiritual life is as sharp as a razor's edge. Shulasya dhara durgam padastas kavayo vadanti. And Prabhupada says any little inattentiveness, and at once there may be havoc and the bloodshed. And therefore, one is supposed to be constantly guarded against this and always seeking protection from the Supreme Lord. So, very special prayers by Brahmaji. Previous text 23 says, "My dear Lord, I may create wonderful things, but please save me from the false ego." And the next prayer he says, "My dear Lord, please save me from the deviation from your plan, and let me not be affected by uh, this kind of deviations." Now, next is text 25, is the waking up prayer. He's praying to the Lord that, "My dear Lord, now please open your eyes and glance on us and give your mercy through this." सोऽसौ अभ्रत् करुणो भगवान् विवृद्ध प्रेमस्मितेन नयनाम्बुरुहं विजृम्भन् उत्थाय विश्वविजयाय च नो विषादम् माध्व्यागिराम् अपनयनात् पुरुषः पुराणः.
The Lord, who is supreme and is the oldest of all, is unlimitedly merciful. I wish that he may smilingly bestow his benediction upon me by opening his eyes, his lotus eyes. He can uplift the entire cosmic creation and remove our dejection by kindly speaking his directions. Purport. The Lord is ever increasingly merciful upon the fallen souls of this material world. The whole cosmic manifestation is a chance for all to improve themselves in devotional service to the Lord, and everyone is meant for that purpose. The Lord expands himself into many personages who are either self expansions or separated expansions. The personages of individual souls are his separated expansions, whereas the self expansions are the Lord himself. The self expansions are predominators, and the separated expansions are predominated for reciprocation of transcendental bliss with the supreme form of bliss and knowledge. The liberated souls can join in this blissful reciprocation of the predominator and predominated without materially concocted ideas. The typical example of such transcendental exchange between the predominator and the predominated is the Lord's Rasa Leela with the gopis. The gopis are the predominated expansions of the internal potency, and therefore the Lord's participation in the Rasa Leela dance is never to be considered like the mundane relationship of man and woman. It is rather the highest perfectional stage of the exchange of feelings between the Lord and the living entities. The Lord gives the fallen souls the chance for this highest perfection of life. Lord Brahma is entrusted with the management of the complete cosmic show, and therefore he prays that the Lord bestow his blessings upon him so that he may execute its purpose.
Now Lord Brahma says, My dear Lord, you are supreme and Purana Purusham. And now please, Vijrumbhan, by opening your eyes, Utthaya, uplift the entire cosmic creation and remove our dejection by kindly speaking the direction. Please give your instructions, my dear Lord. Open your eyes. Please give your instructions so that my dejection will go away. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the Lord is ever increasingly merciful upon the fallen souls in this material world. Very beautiful phrase. Ever increasingly merciful. Always. The Lord's mercy is just expanding and expanding and expanding. Bhuri Karunaya. And thus is the whole cosmic creation is there so that the living entity will reform itself. And actually, who are the living entities? The living entities are Vibhinnamsha. They are also part and parcels of the Lord. And the Lord is expanded in so many different ways. Lord is Swamsha, expansions. Living entities are Vibhinnamsha. And the exchange between Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha is called as Leela or Bhakti. Right? In way, Swamsha may be predominator and Vibhinnamsha may look like a predominated. Or Swamsha may be Purusha and Vibhinnamsha may look like a Prakriti. Of course, Para Prakriti. But the transcendental exchange of this will give great happiness to the predominator and predominated. Prabhupada gives example of Lord Krishna's Rasa Leela, that the gopis, they are the predominated expansions of the internal potency, and this Rasa Leela is the highest expression of the perfectional stage of devotional feelings. This should never to be considered material. Why the reference to Rasa Leela is there? Because Brahmaji, although he is speaking to Garbhodakshai Vishnu, praying to Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he is having the divine darshan of Lord Krishna also. And that's why in one of the previous verse, Brahmaji says, my dear Lord, your Rasa Leela in this incarnation is Udbhava, Sthiti and Vilaya. Is the creation, maintenance and destruction. This is the Rasa Leela as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, as in your Purusha avatar. So now Brahmaji has this huge responsibility and he is praying to the Lord to bestow his blessings upon him so that he may execute the purpose of creation. Text 26. Maitreya Uvacha Swasambhavam Nishamyaiva Tapo Vidya Samadhibihi Yavanmanavachastutva Virarama Sakhinnavat. Translation.
The sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, after observing the source of his appearance, namely the personality of Godhead, Brahma prayed for his mercy as far as his mind and words could permit him. Thus, having prayed, he became silent, as if tired from his activities of penance, knowledge, and mental concentration. Purport: Brahma's enlightenment in knowledge was due to the Lord sitting within his heart. After being created, Brahma could not ascertain the source of his appearance. But after penance and mental concentration, he could see the source of his birth, and thus he became enlightened through his heart. The spiritual master outside and the spiritual master within are both representations of the Lord. Unless one has contact with such bona fide representations, one cannot claim to be a spiritual master. Lord Brahma had no opportunity to take help of a spiritual master outside because at that time Brahma himself was the only creature in the universe. Therefore, on becoming satisfied by prayers of Brahma, the Lord enlightened him about everything from within. Hare Krishna.
So now Maitreya Muni says, O Vidura, this is originally Vidura Maitreya Samvad, Swasambhavam, the source of the appearance, Neshamyaiva. Now Brahmaji here, he's prayed as far as his mind and words could permit him, because he is praying to the Ananta, right? So, and he had just performed very beautiful prayers, very beautiful tapasya, very severe tapasya. He was in samadhi, and then Virarama sa Khinnavat. Khinnavat means he became silent, as if tired from the penance, knowledge, and samadhi. mental concentration. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Brahma's enlightenment in knowledge was due to Lord sitting within his heart. Brahmaji had performed the penance and the mental concentration, samadhi. That's what he had heard, tapa. And now he became enlightened from within. Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye. Somebody may say, uh, this is Brahma's position. Can I also get the enlightenment from within? Answer Prabhupada says that the enlightenment from within initially will come from enlightenment from outside. So the spiritual master outside and the spiritual master within, they are both representatives of the Lord. So Guru is representation of Paramatma. Guru is not Paramatma, but representation of Paramatma, right? So Paramatma's desires, they will come through the Vani of the Guru. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadu. Sakshat haritvena samasta shastre. In case of Brahmaji, this facility was not available. Brahmaji at this time, he could not take the opportunity to take the help of his spiritual master because he was the only one created there. So for him, Antaryami was also the spiritual master, and therefore he's saying, my dear Lord, please be satisfied with my very insignificant prayers. Kindly open your eyes and give me your instructions. Text 27. अथाभिप्रेतम् अन्वीक्ष्य ब्रह्मणो मधुसूदन विषन्न चेतसं तेन कल्पव्यतिकराम्बसा लोकसंस्थानविज्ञाने आत्मना परिखिद्यत तमाह गाधया वाचा कश्मलं शमयन्निव. Translation.
The Lord saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed upon seeing the devastating water. He could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. Purport: the devastating water was so fearful that even Brahma was perturbed at its appearance and became very anxious about how to situate the different planetary systems in outer space to accommodate the different kinds of living entities, such as the human beings, those lower than the human beings, and the superhuman beings. All the planets in the universe are situated according to the different grades of living entities under the influence of the modes of material nature. There are three modes of material nature, and when they are mixed with one another, they become nine. When the nine are mixed, they become 81, and the 81 also become mixed, and thus we ultimately do not know how the delusion increases and increases. Lord Brahma had to accommodate different places and situations for the requisite bodies of the conditioned souls. The task was meant only for Brahma, and no one in the universe can even understand how difficult it was. But by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to execute the tremendous task so perfectly that everyone is amazed to see the workmanship of the Vidhata or the regulator.
The Lord saw Brahma very anxious, depressed. Why depressed? Why anxious? He had a huge work to perform. And where to perform the devastating waters? He had to create the planetary system, create the bodies of the living entities, and therefore he was anxious, depressed, looking at the task, what he's supposed to do. And thus the Supreme Lord, Tamaha Gadhaya Vacham Kashmalam Shamayanniva. He began to speak, thoughtful words, removing all the illusions that had arisen. One can see very close, this is very coming close to Prahasanniva Bharata, that Lord Krishna speaking to Arjuna. This is Arjuna Vishad and this is Brahmaji Vishad Yoga. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the devastating water was so fearful that even Brahma was perturbed. He was very anxious. He had the task of constructing the planetary systems, but when you looked at the water, that we cannot imagine of what the devastating water is. Prabhupada says the Brahma's task, how tremendous it is, only Brahma knows. We cannot even fathom that task. He had to create the three modes of material natures. Through that, he had to create the living entities who are like human, superhuman, subhumans, planetary places for them. And later, these three modes are going to be mixed to become 9, to become 81, and then become ever expanding the delusion. And thus, Brahma had a huge task in front of him. And this task was meant only for Brahmaji, and no one in the universe can even understand how difficult this tremendous task was. And that's why, everyone wonders, Prabhupada says, everybody is amazed to see the workmanship of Vidhata or the regulator, in this case, Lord Brahma. So now the next section is uh, Supreme Lord's reply to Brahmaji, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Jai.
jai. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank
Rangan.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhu, Tanupranam.
Prabhuji.
Prabhu, small question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, just confused about, confused in the sense like Brahma saying devastating water. So, assuming that it's beginning of creation, when Brahma did tapasya for 1,000 years, then do we, at that time, do they still have devastating water covering the universe? Because that should have been completed by that actually, and right, the creation means it should be fresh. Is it not?
In the process. So
Okay.
here we are seeing not Brahma's any other day. This is Brahma's first day.
Okay.
Right. So that is the difference between Sarga and Visarga. So currently we are discussing the Visarga. Visarga
Okay.
is starting of the Brahma's day, and within that, this is very special Visarga because this is starting of Brahma's first day. He has just performed the tapasya. He has, is going to start everything over.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So the devastating water still remains at that time, like kind of
Yeah, yeah, still there.
pralaya. The pralaya water still covering the universe, kind of before he
Half of
starts.
the
Okay.
yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Arjun Vishad and Brahma Vishad, but their consciousness was same what they wanted to do with Lord.
Yoga Mishra. Yoga Mishra.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yoga Mishrit Bhakti, you are asking?
No, it's Arjun Vishad and Brahma Vishad. Arjun also confused to how to do battle. And Brahma also here confused to how the planetary system is go ahead. So there is
Yeah,
consciousness.
so in the sense, because what happens is when you have a very huge task to perform, there is always a chance of becoming, Vishad. Like, sometimes you have some day in the house where, you have so many things to perform. Then, it begins, the task will just overwhelm us. So Arjuna had this huge task of fighting the battle, and more so fighting the battle with the relatives. So he was in a Vishada and he was looking for Lord's words, right? And Lord smiled there and he began to speak, which enlivened Arjuna. Similarly, here also Brahmaji, he is also Kinnavat in a sense because he had so many questions how to do all this, whether it will last. Even if I create, the creation is there. These devastating waters will destroy everything. This is nothing compared to the creation. Devastating waters are huge, and that's how that impossibility of the task gave little khinnata to Brahmaji, and therefore he was looking for the words from the Supreme Lord.
Okay,
Right?
Prabhuji. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.